Hello, welcome to the Inner Adventure. It's a series where nature, ecology, adventure, and the human psychology meet. I am Lutz Otto. I'm a wilderness safari guide and business consultant. My co-host, Dr. Ken Jennings, is a counseling psychologist in private practice. Through this combination of discussions, we've reached some really interesting and discussed some really interesting points. We were talking prior to the recording about the rich integration of perspectives that we've been sharing. About 3 or 4 discussions prior to this, Ken and I spoke about the magic. So the magic is something that I've regularly experienced on safari, and it's when I see after a couple of days how people just seem to calm down, take a deep breath, and they just kind of awaken to this experience. With that comes a different set of perspectives, often a deep sense of introspection. What I couldn't do at that point was, and not on the safari in our discussion with Ken, was really conceptualize what the components are of this magic. So I stepped away, and after a couple of nights good sleep, I woke up early in the morning and started crafting what I believe to be the 5 components of magic. So Ken, if it's okay with you, I'd like to share a slide, and then I'm going to stop talking. I'm very cognizant of the fact that I've run into this speaking quite a bit, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Is that good by you?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to what you're going to be sharing with us, Lutz. I know, and I can remember that moment when we were talking a couple of meetings ago when you actually said the magic happens. And when you said that, I mean, it really, it activated a curiosity in me. And at that point, I actually asked you, what was this magic? And we went into it a bit, but I'm really looking forward to today's discussion, because you've gone away, it seems, and have sort of thought more about this and have actually put together a couple of factors that you feel creates this magic. So, no, please go ahead. I'm excited.
Let's load the share screen. So I'm going to put it into PowerPoint mode. So stepping away, Ken, I started thinking about, what is this magic? And there's a couple of points that really stepped out. Initially, I combined some of them, but then I decided to split them apart into 5 distinct components, but staying within the context of ecology. So when I say within the context of ecology, what I want is to keep a connectedness through all of these points. And I think that connectedness is really important. So when I put these circles up of the 5 components, I initially had put strong, bold lines around them. And when I worked through this, I thought these bold lines have got to go. It's because they create a real blocking in the human mind, and that doesn't allow for the magic to happen. The magic is something that's spoken a bit about by, I would say, the more experienced cluster of wilderness guides. So whether that is in the big mountains in Alaska, or in the Himalayas, or in the African bush, we often hear of this thing, the magic that we see. It's a very real thing. It is a psychological occurrence, but there's a number of components that I believe created. So this is my model. It's not something that I found on the internet or in a process of research. It's really based on a couple of components. So, let's start with, what is this thing called the magic? So to me, it's a sense of connection. It's an inner peace. It's just being. It's a space that has introspection. It's a space where there's a shift in perspective, thinking or seeing. So that's largely in our inner adventure, a psychological place. So in this context of 5 components that I think make up the magic, I start off with the psychology experience. So realizing this is one person versus a cluster of people. So the psychological experience is what I come with on safari, my belief, my perceptions, how much awe I express when I'm there. Am I ruminating about something? Am I depressed? What is my spiritual view of the world? And that's not necessarily religious, rather spiritual. Do I feel a connectedness to nature? Do I feel as though I'm part of something bigger? So in each person that comes on safari, there are components or pieces of these that we see. What then I thought is worth tabulating is a physical experience. And when you see these circles pop up, you see there's no bold line across or around them, should I rather say, and that they overlap. And that's really this connectedness that I speak of. So the physical experience, again, for a single person, is how prepared am I for that safari? And is my expectation aligned to the experience? Am I fit enough if I'm on a backpacking safari or wilderness safari? And then there's the things that happen, the touch, the taste, the smell, the see, and then the sense, that sixth sense that starts playing out whilst we're on safari. So those are the 2 very intrinsic components. What then happens is there's nature, and nature just is. Whether we're on safari or not, it just is. It's nature unfolding. Yes, we can impact nature in that we park our game viewer in the wrong place and we disturb an animal's movement. Alternatively, whilst we're walking, we bump a herd of buffalo and they stand up and they move off. But mostly, nature is just unfolding. And regardless of whether Lutz and Ken are on safari or Joe and Mandy on safari, that same experience is likely to unfold. There's the weather and our response to the weather, any ecological interactions that are unfolding, what the topography looks like. I find areas, for example, with hills and big trees like baobabs and large stands of mapani, dense stands of mapani, just seem to impact people on a completely different level. Is there pollution? I remember walking a particular trail and we came across these stands of blocked off areas that were put up for scientific purposes. And I was walking with a very educated group of guys that were all masters, doctors, and they felt this was visual pollution. This fencing, even though it was for science, really impacted their wilderness experience. Are there human structures? How untouched is this area? Then there's the service stimulus. So this is, to me, the 4th component. And, I think it's so important that marketing and reality align. If we want the magic to happen, marketing and reality must align. Are my expectations of service, lodging, and the hosting, are they being met? Or ideally surpassed? You don't want your client sitting on safari and thinking, geez, I've been robbed, or it's not quite what I thought it would be. How is the guide facilitating that experience? Is it created in a way that in itself brings a level of magic, and is it the right sharing of knowledge and sometimes just keeping quiet so that people can absorb what's going on around them? And on a walking safari, do the clients feel safe? That's really important. And the more advanced that walking safari becomes, so we start stepping into the wilderness space, the unsupported backpacking trails, does that client feel safe? And when they feel safety with the guide, it makes a huge difference to their ability to absorb the environment. In an open group safari, and even sometimes in a safari of friends, how does that cluster get along with one another? Are they comfortable with one another? If there's a connection, often it just facilitates this process of the magic. And then there's what so many of the of the experienced wilderness guides speak about is the spirit of place. I call it the spirit of wilderness because of my love of wilderness. The psychological term is genius loci, and this really just is. It's the energy of big spaces. In Africa, it's 3 million years of human evolution that we feel. It's that thread that weaves all life, past and present, together. So it's a sense of real interconnectedness that creates that we feel when we're in these places. And to me, that combination is what really creates the magic. Now, I need to add one final point. The magic doesn't happen for everyone, and I think, you know, when we on safari, our ambition or my ambition is really to get people as close as possible to feeling this powerful place, because that safari really isn't about me. It's about my client, and my client leaving feeling that something has changed, something has transformed in them, and that they've seen what they wanted to see, or that much more. So why I say that this doesn't happen with everyone is really, for the magic to happen, it needs an open heart. The client needs to come with an open heart. So that means I'm open to seeing things differently. I'm open to feeling things differently. They need an open mind. And there must be that will, or the allowance, which I spoke of within the open heart. It also depends. If we come into safari and we're ruminating about something, the pace differs. Perhaps the adoption differs. And then finally, I think the depth of the magic differs. I remember, and I wrote about this particular gentleman, I remember sitting probably 4 or 5 years ago, just watching, it was the last evening of the safari, it was still light, watching one of the clients just shift off slightly and sit under this beautiful marula tree, and the sun was going down, and it was just this explosion of reds and color, and you could just feel the genius loci, the spirit of place. It was just a powerful moment. And that gentleman came to me a little bit later, and he said, well, something has just changed within me on the safari. And I'm thinking about my life, what I've achieved, and I'm proud of what I've achieved. And I'm thinking about what I'd like to achieve. And to me, that is the magic. So not necessarily about achievement, but just that deep introspection and a sense of awe and a sense of gratefulness. So Ken, this is what I, in a couple of early mornings, evolved into what I believe the magic is. It's a combination of those 5 components, and I'm sure that as you and I ponder on this over time, that it might change or evolve a little bit. I think that's the real power in these experiences. So I'm going to stop the sharing, and I think I'm going
to just leave this on for a moment. I mean,
yes.
I think this is fascinating. Just how you brought into this formula, call it, these 5 factors, or these 5 elements of the psychological experience, the physical nature, the service stimulus, and then the spirit of place, and how, as these different, say, factors come together and integrate, the magic emerges. Now, you said that the magic doesn't happen for everybody. And when you said it, I had a question in my mind that I don't think we should see the magic as an absolute thing. So what I mean is that I'm sure there will be a degree of being touched by nature. And the degree is that if all of these 5 factors don't come together, let's say there are 4 of these factors that come together and one lags a bit, then the degree and the feeling or the connection with this energy, this magic that exists in nature, might be a little bit affected. So if you want, let's say, the full component, if one wants to think of it as a magic feel, is that we have to try and bring these 5 factors together. And they should come together naturally, but there might be lags. In other words, previously we spoke about that when you come into nature, sometimes you have to leave your old world behind. So there might be a psychological lag of rushing and of worrying and distractions of your life, your past life or your old life, and that needs to settle down before you enter into the psychological connection with nature. So that's the one element that hit me, is that I think the magic can be a matter of degree. In other words, we feel it differently. I think it depends on the individual. It depends on the actual experience, the totality of the experience. It depends on, where you are in the context of nature. But I thought, Lutz, you spent a lot of very late nights or early mornings thinking about this, and I think this was fantastic.
Yeah, Ken, a couple of points that bounce out there. Definitely not late nights, you know me. But early mornings I could do. Yeah, early mornings really aren't a problem. I think you're spot on. This does vary. It's not an absolute, and I think it would be a mistake to aim for the magic to be a constant, or in fact, as an expectation. I think you taught me many years ago, if you're playing for the coaches, that game is probably going to go badly. And I think the same applies or I believe the same would apply to this model. The other is 2 or 3 discussions ago, I said it's really important for a good guide to have an equal love for people as he does for the environment. I think if a guide focuses too much on the environment, or too much on himself for that matter, and not enough on creating an experience for the type of person he's with, realizing that people are different, cultures are different, it becomes very difficult to create this as well. So, and probably to understand this, so that love for people and the human psychology is really important in the guiding space. In fact, it's really important in the leadership space. Just a thought. So I absolutely agree with you. It's really not absolute.
Lutz, can I come in? Yeah, because you've said something now that's activated further thinking on my side. Yeah, is that I think the magic can be elusive, and what I feel is that if the guide or the individual has this sort of objective to get the magic, the more you seek it, the more you try and get it, the further it goes, or you aren't able to capture it. And I'm now thinking of, the coach or the guide, where if there's pressure on the guide to try and ensure that you have a sighting of one of the predators, let's say, of a leopard or a lion, and the more the talk is, and we've got to see this lion, and your clients are doing that, and you feel this pressure, and then you go and seek, or you try and find this lion, for example, that it never really arrives, and you might never ever get it, and then you walk away from the experience frustrated, and in fact you find yourself emotionally in the opposite place to magic, which is disappointment, irritability, frustration, because you've been seeking this and you've been trying to chase it. So I think magic is elusive. I think it unfolds, and it arrives at probably the most unexpected time, and it's an internal sense of yourself connecting with nature on a deeper level, and everything just comes together. The clarity of thinking, the doubts that one has, the worry that one has, just seems to almost evaporate. You exist, I think, in the moment, the present moment. So, the past worries just don't exist. Your future fantasies aren't there. So it's a very special place, this, Lutz, but I also think it can't be constructed and you can't go and seek it. I don't know how you feel about, what I've said and the pressure that you might.
I absolutely agree. The reason I was giggling and laughing is because the moment you push this too hard, it does become elusive. It's something, it's got to be a natural process. And I think that is probably the reason why it's only now that I've put together those 5 points, is because for me it has been a natural process. I've had this fascination since I'm thinking back to Drakensberg days around spirit of place, because there is definitely that. But spirit of place on its own is not the result of the magic. It's one of the components. I think I just want to add, Ken, realizing that we as usual running low on time. 2 points to your thought. I think for the magic to occur, or either the guest, the participant, the safari goer, there has to be a slow dissolving of the picture of self, or my thinking of self. So the ego almost needs to step back a little bit, and it just, I am there. And I think when I am there, the magic flows in. And that would be the same for the guide, which speaks to your point of when we're actively looking for something, it's exactly the opposite of, for example, a couple of sessions ago, we spoke about being in the zone. When we're in the zone, we're not actively looking for something, we're just doing. We actively doing, and we're focused on the doing. Too much thinking around the magic certainly gets in the way of the magic.
Yes. I think if we just add to that, is that when you get engrossed with the environment that's in front of you, and you have this intention to notice, you have this intention to be open to what is in front of you. With that, I think your preconceived ideas about how nature should be or how reality should be totally dissipates. And it's at that point of where you and, let's say, the environment, or you and reality become one. And that's a magical moment. I see this in sport, I actually see this in conversations where we walk away sometimes from interactions with people, conversations with people that are enriched, and it's a magical moment, because we're not planning what we're going to say before. We're not worried about what we've said. There's just this sense of connection. And so it's a very special place. And I think, Lutz, in nature provides us with many opportunities for this. Yesterday I was, as you know, I've got this love for the Black Forest, which is growing, stronger and bigger. And so I was sitting next to this little stream, and I was just alone. And for me, I spent, I don't know, it's probably about half an hour, magical minutes, just next to the stream, So I think you don't have to go to a special tree, or you have to go to a big vista. If you are connected to where you are, I think there's this opportunity for the magic.
Absolutely agree, Ken. I'm sad to bring our conversation to close. I've loved this exploration of really what is the magic, and even though we have now this five component model, I think that all that is really a model. this is a feeling, sensing, evolving thing. And I think that the model really is just us trying to put human words around something deeply, deeply powerful. Ken, I was wondering, any last thoughts?
I'd just like to link to what you said about time coming to an end and that you don't want to leave. I mean, I don't want to finish this conversation, because I think we really have touched, for me, some of the elements that create the magic. And when you're in these magical moments, we don't want to leave.
Yes.
Yesterday I had to get back to the office here, but I didn't want to leave. I actually left with quite a heavy heart, And so when we experience the magic, we know it's there. We feel it. And we don't really want to leave, And I think it's also because it's so far and few between that we experience these moments of magic. And your experiences in wilderness, in nature, offers you, more and more opportunity just to connect to this magic that exists around us. So Lutz, our time has come to the end, and I'm also sad to leave, but what a fascinating conversation. And thank you for presenting that model. I found it really, really exciting and challenging, and has given me some extra structure to think about this.
Thank you, Ken. As I close, I think that it's not unusual for either of us to hear that in Scotland, Sweden, Japan, Switzerland, nature prescriptions are now being given by doctors. Isn't that amazing? Truly, truly amazing. Ken, so thank you so much for your time, and to you, the viewer, thank you for listening to Ken and my thoughts. It's been a real pleasure. If you've got any thoughts, comments, likes, please add them. And until next time, be safe, shine your light brightly. Ciao.